On today's Locked On NBA, Nick Angstadt, Adam Mara is here to talk about the games that happened in the NBA. You didn't watch them. We did, so we're going to tell you all about them. Steph Curry goes down.
Hopefully they watched them, Nick. I think they might have watched them. Some people probably watched them.
You may have watched one. We watched the rest of them, I think.
I did watch the rest of them, yep.
All kinds of stuff. A wild Mavericks game I'll break down. Wild Bulls, Knicks finish. Wild Grizzlies, Warriors finish. All kinds of stuff we'll get into on today's Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome. You are Locked On to the NBA. My name is Nick Angstadt, host of the Locked On Mavericks podcast. And joining me, as always, on a Friday from DNVR and Locked On Nuggets. What you got for me, Adam Mares?
This was a great night in the NBA. A lot of great games, a good schedule, a good slate. We're lucky we get to break down this night.
Oh, it was fun. There were some fun games, weird games. That Mavs Spurs game, I'll break it all down for you, but that was a weird game. Wizards destroyed the Hawks. Lots of stuff to get into. This episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving community since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's an unofficial community center. A big thank you to all of our friends at McDonald's for always being there. I'm loving it. All right, let's get into these games. We'll start with maybe the wildest game, the Knicks versus the Bulls.
Yeah.
The Knicks get the win 104-103. DeMar DeRozan had a shot at the end to get it. He couldn't get it down. Right before that, Julius Randle missed 2 free throws at the end. This is like the new, like 2 new powers in the East. I'm not sure if they're like the top powers or anything like that, but 2 teams that kind of emerged over the last couple of years as they were terrible for a long time, and now they've got some pretty good teams.
The Knicks are back. The Bulls are back, baby. Yeah, this was a great game. This was a really good game. I was so impressed with the Knicks and how they played. I was so impressed with the Bulls and how they closed. This was one of those games where the Knicks kind of held a steady lead the entire game. It would balloon up to 10, 12. Chicago would close the gap to 4 or 5, then it ballooned back up. But it was just a great all-around game. My notes on this one, Julius Randle tonight, if you just look at the box score, 13 points, 16 rebounds, 9 assists. I guess that is pretty impressive, but you look at 13 points and maybe you think had a bit of an off night. What jumped out to me, of course, the most improved player of the year last year, though, his ability to control the offense. You know, there's good passers, guys that learn how to make good passes. And then there's guys that understand how to manipulate a possession and kind of run the show. And I think Julius Randle has really morphed into the second version of that, almost a point forward. And this game, I was so impressed with him, other than missing 2 free throws in the final minute that would have pretty much clinched it.
Yeah, and the irony of him missing those 2 shots at the end, going 3 of 11, is his ability to like add that jumper made him the most improved player last year and has opened up so much more. It basically became their entire offense, and when that wasn't going down in the playoffs, they just couldn't score. And so now they add these 2 guys in Fournier and Kemba, and they have guys that can actually shoot around him. But when you add that as a player for Julius Randle, and teams all of a sudden know that, all right, he's a 40% three-point shooter now. He's a guy that can shoot off the dribble. He's a guy that can hit a mid-range shot. We have to respect that. It opens up so much more for your team.
But I think it's like
impressive his development.
Yeah, but even before, like even last year for large portions of it, I think he'd be a guy that you're always in attack mode, and then if you see a guy, you kick it out or you make the pass or whatever. I think now he's understanding like how to attack, knowing how the defense is going to react. And that's really what a game manager, really a point guard does. And now we're seeing more point play from other positions, not just the guard spot. And I think he is one of the more impressive ones in that, to be honest. I'm also in love with the Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine, Alex Caruso trio. That's a hell of a trio from a backcourt. And of course, almost two of them are on the court almost at all times, but they closed with all 3 of them. And I thought it was a great look, a great defensive unit. All of them. Caruso is a much improved passer. You just have a little bit of everything with them. So this was a great game. I was impressed with both teams. I was unimpressed with Julius Randle closing it at the foul line, and even more unimpressed with DeMar DeRozan going to an air ball. And let me ask you this. Zach LaVine's on that team. DeMar DeRozan's on that team. Are you surprised and or bothered at all that DeRozan was the guy who got his number called for the final shot.
Here's the thing that's going to happen with the Bulls. If DeRozan misses the shot, it's going to be, why didn't Zach LaVine get the shot? I think I saw it right after the game. I had it on my second screen. I looked up and it said, why did Zach LaVine not get the ball? And if Zach LaVine misses a shot, it's going to be, why didn't DeRozan? He's older. He's the veteran. He's the one that's hit more game winners in his career and all that. It's going to be that kind of back and forth. But I love that lineup too. That lineup with DeRozan at the 4, Vooch at the 5. Like, that's just so much. You have a lot of perimeter defense, and then you have a lot of like just shot makers, bucket makers kind of guys.
Yeah. Last note I have on this one: Joakim Noah was honored during this game, and he is now a team ambassador for the Chicago Bulls, which I think is kind of cool. I like Joakim Noah.
Joakim Noah says some stuff. He says some wild stuff sometimes.
He does talk.
He talked on Zach Lowe's podcast. You can go listen to that if you're interested. All right, another game that was a wild finish was this Golden State Warriors Memphis Grizzlies finish. Ja Morant and the Warriors, or Ja Morant and the Grizzlies finished off the Warriors. And Ja Morant does stuff every single game where you're like, oh dang! Like at the end of this game, there was 4 seconds left, or 4.8 seconds left. The Grizzlies had a 3-point lead, and Ja Morant, the ball was inbounded to him in the backcourt, and a Warrior player ran at him, and Ja Morant just matrixed and avoided the take foul or the foul to get him to the free throw line. He just does stuff every single game where you're just amazed. 30 points in this game, 7 boards, 5 assists, 4 steals. Man, he's having quite a season.
The escape part at the end there was really cool, but I don't know if I would make that in the top 2 or 3 things that he did just in the in the clutch. I mean, he had a 30-foot 3-pointer in the fourth quarter that was just incredible. It was a clutch 3-pointer, and it was one of those. It was like a logo 3. Is Ja Morant adding the logo 3 to his game? And then he also just had this incredible spin move, and to call it a spin move undersells it. It was like a double hezzy cross spin. Like, it was just an incredible move where he weaved basically in between 3 players to get another clutch bucket there in overtime. This is my biggest note, Nick, from this game. And there was a lot of great stuff that had. This is another great game. Ja Morant is making a leap, and he was already a great player. I think he is the way he has played so far out the gate this season. Of course, it's very early. He is starting to look like a guy that maybe is actually one of the 15 guys that really can change things. He's looking that good that he might be elevated a lot. He might be a guy that moves higher on the sort of overall league-wide rankings, whatever you want to call it, than just about anybody else in the top 50. He looks phenomenal. He looks like a superstar.
He takes some of these matchups personally too, where
everyone.
Like he takes almost every single one of if he's going up against LaMelo, he's like, I'm going to take this guy down because everyone's talking about him and they're not talking about me, and I'm taking on Curry. All right, I'm going to take a 30-foot 3-point shot.
I honestly think there's something to that, man. You laugh, but I kind of feel there was a little like going up against Curry, I'll shoot the deep 3 tonight and make it.
The wings too, and Jaren Jackson Jr. like having those guys, Melton kind of take a little bit of a step forward. Desmond Bane in this game, 19 points, 6 boards, 5 of 11 from 3. Like,
he was great. Him and
Dallas
Melton
Mavericks just missed on him, and it hurts my soul.
Melton was great. He had a huge block on Draymond there towards the end. Kyle Anderson had a big block late in this game. I mean, they just have a lot of guys that you count on. And even Steven Adams, who doesn't play a ton, he only plays 21 minutes tonight. Even he just everybody on that team kind of has a role, and they know it, and they play it. And I just really love that Memphis Grizzlies team as a team. I like the way they fit.
Yeah, and they can close with Jaren Jackson at the 5, which is huge for them because that spacing, you need that for a guy like Ja Morant. You just need that kind of stuff. He missed 7 threes, but still, he's out there taking 10 threes as the center, and that is huge for a team spacing. Absolutely. On the Warriors side of things, are we nervous? Are we worried? Are we worried about the Warriors? Curry, 36 points, 7 of 20 from 3.
Well, let's see. Are we worried? They were the second to last team to be undefeated. They now move all the way down to 4-1. I'm going to say no, not worried about them just yet. This was a great game. It was a good team. They kind of got the short end of it was a 50-50 game that they ended up losing. But no, I actually very impressed with them, and I think they get a lot of contributions from Poole, from Bielitsa, Toscano Anderson, even Damian Lee tonight. So they just have a lot of guys as well. They just lost a 50-50 game.
No. But when they don't have a guy like Poole or Wiggins, I guess Wiggins had 16 points, but if Poole doesn't pull his own weight, like if he doesn't do that
great
scoring,
word. Great word. What else you got?
If he doesn't do, and if Damian Lee doesn't lead them in scoring off the bench,
You got any more? You got one more?
and if they can't get anything else, like if no, I got nothing else.
Moody, maybe if they're in a bad Moody. No.
Biha leads. No, I got nothing.
But
if they don't get one of those guys to give them 20 points or 15 points or something like that, they're struggling to find some more offense.
Well,
on
Steph
this team
Curry tonight, honestly, Steph Curry missed all of his three. One of the storylines from this one, Steve Kerr does this sometimes. Steph Curry did not play until the final 4 minutes of the fourth quarter. He didn't come back into the game. So he misses the first 8 minutes of the fourth quarter. It happens. And then he came in, he couldn't hit a shot. I don't know if he scored or knocked down another 3-pointer in both the final 4 minutes or overtime. And honestly, one of those goes down. Golden State wins this one, but he came in cold.
Yeah, and it becomes a whole different conversation probably at that point. Bunch of other games to get to. We'll get to Mavs Spurs, a wild game. We'll get to Hawks Wizards. The Wizards, man, they're looking pretty good. We'll talk about those teams. And of course, we have our power ranking in segment 3. You're not going to want to miss it. This episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's a place where friends and family can come to reconnect, a place where classmates can meet up for a study group knowing they'll get dependable Wi-Fi and an endless supply of French fries, McFlurries, McDoubles, McChickens, McNuggets. What other mixed stuff do they have? They got all kinds of mixed stuff. McDonald's is so well known, it had me calling Mick everything when I was a kid. Can I get McNuggets? We're at Wendy's. No, I want McNuggets. Okay, we're going to go there. Go there after a game. Go there for a watch party. Locked On NBA watch party. Locked On Nuggets. Locked On Mavs, maybe. Lots of stuff you can get at McDonald's. Go stop at one. They're all over the place. You can't drive anywhere without passing a couple of them. Stop by. Get some stuff. Ba-do-ba-ba-ba. I'm loving it. All right, Adam Mares, let's get into the rest of these games. Hawks Wizards. I did catch a little bit of this. The Wizards get another win, and Montrezl Harrell's just doing regular season Montrezl Harrell things in this game. 25 points, 13 boards, 5 assists, 2 steals. He had 10 and 10 with 4 assists at the half. Yeah. He has been really important for them. I listen to Locked On Wizards and feel like every single post game they're like, Montrezl Harrell showed up big. Montrezl Harrell really fueled this team. There's something about he's just working for this team.
I mean, he's got a great motor, and they've got a lot of spacing. It really works. Obviously defensively he can be an issue, but guess what? Wes Unseld Jr. has that team playing, playing pretty great. 4-1 start. Listen to this win profile: at Toronto, Indiana, at Boston, and now Atlanta. That's 4 really good wins. That's not 4 wins against, you got the Pelicans, you got the Magic, this or that. No, that's 4 pretty impressive wins right there. And this one they did without Spencer Dinwiddie. So, and at one point in this game, they were in the second half, the Wizards were up 20 points. So they kind of blew it towards the end. But they still managed to kind of close this one and get the win. But they look really good. They look really impressive. Another note I have from the last one I have, 5 technical fouls in this game. It was a little chippy.
Going back and forth. Yeah, you can. There's a couple guys that can go off in this game. The Hawks team can get heated when they get going.
I think Davis Bertans picked up a tech even. It was weird, man.
Don't put it past the Latvians to get fired up about something. Also, the other thing that I noticed from this game, all 3 of the players that the Lakers traded to the Wizards for Russell Westbrook started and all had 20 points. They all contributed in big ways and half.
Montrezl Harrell, Kyle Kuzma, you're right. Yep, look at that.
All 3 of them. Far be it from us to do an extra Lakers segment when we don't have to, but the Lakers just lost this trade so bad.
Well, what's funny is you even go to the Bulls game, Lonzo and Caruso were fantastic. Julius Randle, as I mentioned, was fantastic. All the ex-Lakers. It's like their careers began when they leave Los Angeles. It's crazy.
Something about it. I don't know. It's the spotlights over streetlights. Maybe that's what they're doing.
I'm happy though for Wes Unseld Jr., man.
Yeah.
I mean, any new coach, and he's a great guy. Obviously, he has ties to the Wizards organization through his father, and even where he got his start. So I think it's great. 5-1 start. That's fantastic.
On the Hawks side of things, John Collins, he had 14 points at half, finished with 28 points, 12 boards, 3 assists, 14 of 16 from the field. And John Collins this year, in the first game against the Mavs and then throughout the season, has just been doing a little bit more. He didn't hit any threes, or he didn't take any threes in this game, but he's just been doing a little bit more. shot creation for himself, pull-up jumpers in the mid-range. He's just added that to his game and become such a more effective player. I saw Josh Eberly on Twitter post like a poll he did in 2019. Who do you think will be a better NBA player like going into the future now? John Collins or Kristaps Porzingis? And it was like 80% Kristaps Porzingis, and now it might be flipped the other way around just because of the work that John Collins has done.
For sure. Well, and not just for that, also for the work Kristaps Porzingis has not done. But yes,
I was going to let you say that instead of me.
Not to rag on your guy.
Yeah. The Hawks sometimes I feel like don't take some of these matchups seriously. They feel like, all right, we've arrived and we're just going to kind of just show up and see if we can, win this without trying too hard.
Maybe the Wizards are just good, man. I mean, honestly, like I would say that too, but I don't know. The Wizards are starting to stack these wins up. Maybe it's one of the things about the NBA right now. It can be hot starts. This stuff often will be crazy for a month before, the dust kind of settles. But every team's good, minus like 3 or 4. Every team is good, and the Wizards just might be a little bit better than we expected.
To another team we thought was probably terrible and might actually be pretty decent or at least scrappy. The San Antonio Spurs versus the Dallas Mavericks. Mavericks get the win 104-99. If you look at that game, you're like, oh, well, the Mavericks, kind of took the lead in the fourth quarter. But then you're like, oh my gosh, the Mavericks were down 23-3 to start this game. Just
what the heck happened?
An abysmal start. What happened was the Mavericks, so Kristaps Porzingis was out in this game. The Mavericks have been going with double bigs to start every single game. And this time they finally went with apparently my guy now. I've become the Reggie Bullock leader in the clubhouse after I asked Jason Kidd that question. He starts the game. And so they go with Dwight Powell as the lone big, the lone starting center. And they just tried to go Luka, Dwight Powell, pick and roll just the entire time. They just kept the beginning of the game. They went 4 or 5 times, 6 times to start the game. And Luka just couldn't get any passes to Dwight. He's sort of his safety net at sometimes. Couldn't get it there. Jakob Poeltl's really good at defending the rim, and Dwight couldn't get anything going on Jakob Poeltl. They've got the Spurs have these 2 wings in DeJounte Murray and Keldon Johnson that are just long and really good defenders. DeJounte Murray a guard, but Derek White, Lonnie Walker are super quick, and they're just running around the place. Like, they have a really good defense. They stay where they're supposed to on defense, and the Mavericks just could not get anything going early. And then Jalen Brunson came in. Oh, it was so great. Jalen Brunson came in, and he changed the game. His speed, the way that he was able to push the pace in a way that Luka doesn't usually like to do, really changed the game. And then they went to Maxi Kleber as the lone big man in certain lineups. Maxi finished with 12 points, 10 boards, 4 threes, and 6 blocks for Maxi. That has only happened in the NBA. 6 blocks and 4 threes. That's only happened 16 other times in NBA history. A guy do that.
Crazy.
Porzingis did it once. Brook Lopez a couple times. Karl-Anthony Towns, Jaren Jackson, Anthony Davis, guys like that. Sean Marion, Robert Horry did it in 1996. But yeah, it barely ever happens. He's a very
Maxi Kleber, right amongst all those
right greats. Amongst all those is Maxi Kleber and Al Horford and all those guys. But yeah, incredible impact from him defensively. And then Luka came in and closed it. Luka was awful in the first quarter, in the first half. And then he came in and he's like has these games sometimes where he's just terrible. He looks bad. He's throwing turnovers. He's kind of throwing a fit because the refs aren't calling stuff for him. And then he finishes with 25 points, 5 assists. And you're like, oh, he's fine.
Still looks like a rough game. And from what I saw, this one in the Utah one, I'm sure we'll talk about next. The 2 I missed tonight, but I did catch a little bit of that fourth quarter down the stretch, and I was kind of surprised at how much he was kind of complaining down there when they had command of the game. Clearly he was irritated tonight for something.
Yeah, there was a couple of refs that just like if they just miss stuff early, anytime they miss stuff after that, it just irks him in a different way than anybody else. Sneaky.
So real quick, you mentioned San Antonio though. I just got to because you said they might be good. They're 1-4, and listen to this: they beat Orlando opening night at home. Okay, they lose to Denver in a real close game. I mean, they battled. They go on a back-to-back to Milwaukee again. Battle. They go to Los Angeles and they lose in overtime. Again,
that was a heartbreaker.
And then they have Dallas, and again they battle. So they're 1-4, but it's like, hey, that's a pretty. There's 4 moral victories, I guess, wrapped up in there. I mean, they're a better team than 1-4. They probably deserve better, but
they should have won that Lakers game too. They missed 4 free throws down the stretch. Anyway, we don't have to go back.
NBA's good, man. I'm telling you, it's good every night. A 1-4 team, and I'm like, yeah, they're a good team.
Well, a team that is not good, the Houston Rockets, man, they lose to the Utah Jazz 122-91. The Utah Jazz just take care of business. And the Rockets led twice in this game. They had 2 leads, one at the very start of the game and then in the middle of the first quarter, and then just never led again. This Jazz team knows how to take care of business, run guys out. And this Jazz team is so equal that, like, I think their leading scorer was Bogdanovich with 19 points, and a bunch of other guys had double digits. They just have these games every once in a while where everybody contributes.
7 players in double figures. Yeah, to your point, they were up 32-18 at the end of the first quarter, 61-40 at the half. I just said everybody in the NBA is good except for 3 or 4 teams. Rockets definitely one of those teams. And then Kevin Porter Jr. tonight in the first half rolled his ankle, did not return. So kind of something to monitor. Set your fantasy lineups appropriately, I guess. But yeah, this is arguably the best team in the NBA right now versus arguably the worst team, and it went exactly as you'd expect.
Exactly as you'd expect that one to go. Last one here, the Pistons versus the Sixers. The Sixers get to win 110-102. And but it was close at the end. It really came down to it. The Pistons were scrapping hard at the end, but the Sixers ended up getting the win.
Yeah, so this one was actually a blowout, and then the Pistons came storming back. I mean, this was a game that you thought was going to be over, heading into the final minutes, but then Detroit made a late push to kind of make it honorable, I guess, if you will. Joel Embiid at one time, my only note I have here, he has 30 points, 18 rebounds. He was dominant. For some reason, he got into it with Garza. Luka Garza just got under his skin, and it really riled him up. He went on like a 12-0 scoring run personally. Garza at one point tried to help him up. Embiid wanted no help. He was taking this very personally. And one thing I will say, I don't know if you've noticed this. I'm calling him out. I'm being the hater here. Joel Embiid it reminds me of Kevin Garnett. He loves to pick fights with the worst players. So
he picked it with Andre Drummond. I don't know if that makes a case.
No, that's to my point, actually. Yes. We're talking about 76ers backup center, Andre Drummond. Yes. That's my point. He does seem to always find the weakest foes to really try to go at.
He has the classic thing with Westbrook, though. I don't know if that one's maybe a little step up.
Yeah, okay.
He's won an MVP. Doesn't Luka Garza, he should have gone to Duke, right? Doesn't it seem like he should have?
He has that look. I'll tell you what, he definitely looked rattled tonight when Embiid was like, "Hey, I'm going to torture you," and he's like, "Crap."
He hit 2 threes though. Shout out to him.
Shouts to Luka Garza.
Yeah. So the Sixers end up taking care of business though, even though the Pistons came back. Still no Cade Cunningham.
Yeah,
I'm getting a little nervous.
I mean, I don't know to be nervous or not. I mean, when he comes back, he'll be joining are they the only team that does not have a win at the moment?
Yes, yeah. The Spurs have one. Thunder got one against the Lakers. Yeah.
So there you go. Arguably, though, another contender for worst team. I really think there's only a few bad teams. I would say the Orlando Magic are bad.
Yeah.
I would say Detroit Pistons are bad. I think the Thunder are bad, although they play hard, and the Rockets are bad. Outside of that, the other teams are pretty good.
Yeah, they've all got something. They've all either got a potential all-star. They've got fighters. They got somebody. So, all right, coming up, let's get into our power rankings. We're ranking, being Adam, is ranking his favorite things in the NBA so far this season. We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Built Bar. It's a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Do you know Built Bar has so many delicious flavors? They actually have one. As we're recording this, there's a countdown meter on their website right now. If you go to built.com, there's a countdown meter. And a new flavor is coming out right now. A brand new flavor, a mystery flavor. So you have to go to built.com, check out what the mystery flavor is going to be. I don't even know what it is yet. Go check it out. Use the promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your order. And if you don't get the mystery flavor, you can get all the classic ones they have right now. Mint brownie, always a solid one. That bar, 130 calories, 17 grams of protein, 4 grams of sugar in a bar covered in 100% chocolate. They also have the puffs. It's a very different type of bar. It's got the marshmallow in it. You can check out those as well. Get Built Bar.
Man, you weren't lying. 55 minutes till this new flavor. I'm gonna have to set my watch.
It says our new flavor will keep you guessing. I don't know what it is. It's got question marks all over it, but
pumpkin
check
spice.
it out.
Latte.
Built. They just came out with a pumpkin puff one, so maybe they're doing pumpkin spice. Check it out, built.com. Also, I want to tell you about betonline.ag, the fastest and easiest way to put down some money on sports. You can bet on all kinds of NBA stuff. You can bet on, let's see if they have the game tomorrow, the Dallas Mavericks versus the Nuggets. I don't think they do because Jokic is out, and I don't think they'll want to mess with that one. But if you want, Lakers Nets on Christmas Day. They have the Christmas Day odds already.
Oh, wow.
Lakers 1-point favorite at home against the Nets right now. Both teams not necessarily doing the best. How are you feeling about that one?
I don't care.
Give me the Nets in that one. They'll cover that. They'll cover that 1-point spread. Go to betonline.ag. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. You'll get a 50% welcome bonus to first deposit. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Adamaris, let's get into the power rankings. Every week, we like to have some fun on Fridays. We like to get our power rankings on. We do something weird. This time, we're doing your favorite things in the NBA.
The favorite things this season, we're a week into the season, a full week. We're actually, I think, 10 days into the season. I already have things that have defined the season that I like. Number 5, and you have to remember, I'm a hater. You just asked me, Nets, Lakers, Christmas, what do you want? I said, I don't care. Number 5, the Nets and Lakers suck. Yes, this is incredible. I'm all for it. Coming into the year, I think the Lakers, look, coming in, I said this, a lot of people have said this, like that Lakers team, they're going to be good by the end of the year, but I don't know if they're dominant, like, oh, they a can't miss team. And now we're seeing that they have some flaws. The Nets, though, were the team everybody, even with the Kyrie stuff, you thought, man, they're still, it's Harden, it's Durant, they've got great pieces around, so much shooting, but they just do not look great right now. James Harden in particular does not look great. So that's my thing. You go into a year thinking, oh, the story's already written, the script's already written. Maybe not so fast.
Both these teams are old as hell. Like, so old out there. They're throwing out lineups like Melo is closing games for them. Melo's been around forever. Paul Millsap goes out there and they're like, all right, try to give us 10 minutes, Paul. And he's like, no,
Can I rant, by the way, about this Melo thing? And again, maybe this is the haters ball, and I'm just
top 10 scorer in NBA history, Adam.
Top number 9, I believe.
Your apologies should be as loud as your disrespect.
So people will do this when he has that great night, what he had earlier this week, right? I mean, he really was fantastic in that game where we took the lead, 27 points, I think. Yep. And then everybody says, oh, and some people said he was done, or some people didn't think he did this. And then the next night he comes out, airballs a game winner, can't throw the ball in the ocean, and nobody say anything. Can we just admit Carmelo can score sometimes? That's his role on this team. Is sometimes he's going to be hot. Most of the times he's not, and that's just what it is. We don't have to every time he's good bring it up. Every time he's bad bring it up. Like that, he's a bit player at this point.
The fact that they have LeBron, Melo, and Westbrook, all who have fans that do this for their team,
every
right?
time,
or for that player at some point. Like, how they hit every single one of those on the bingo card is pretty insane. This team, and they'll close lineups with like Josh Reeves closing the game, and then it's like Bazemore, and you're like, what is going on with this team? Sometimes
it's a weird team. It's a very weird team.
Really weird. And then James Harden just hasn't looked the same so far this season. Maybe it's.
Let's just hold up. We might have something else later on in this power ranking.
All right, we'll get into that next.
Number 4, I put this as the fans are back, but I think it's more than that. We kind of take for granted. I know we had them at the end last year, with the playoffs or this or that. But what I would say is that I am smacked like you can't escape the fact that this year feels different from the last two, in part because the games are just spaced out a little bit more, but there's fans. It feels regular again for the first time. Last 2 years have not felt regular. This season is starting to feel a lot more regular. Now I know, you're credentialed, I'm credentialed here in Denver. We still have, there's masks and there's rules and there's still some awkwardness. There's Zooms and everything else, but it feels significantly more regular than the last 2 years have. And that's a great thing.
Oh, getting to go to a stadium and getting to sit in there, feel the energy from the crowd, getting to hear, the PA announcer, and getting to see can this guy win free Whataburger for a year, right? Like getting to see stuff like that. It's awesome that it's back. I love it.
Yeah. Number 3, I'm cheating a little bit because I already said the Nets and Lakers being bad was one of my favorite parts. But the other part of this is just parity. And okay, we're only 5 games in here, so maybe I'm jumping the gun on this a little bit, but Charlotte Hornets, New York Knicks, Chicago Bulls, Washington Wizards, all 4-1 right now. Who had that? And by the way, it looks sustainable. Like they're good. And as I just mentioned, you go top to bottom, you go down to non-playoff teams right now. The Indiana Pacers 1-4, San Antonio Spurs 1-4. Those are good teams. I just love
played like 8 overtime games between the two of them.
I just like that. When I look at the Nuggets schedule and I'm like, let me see, does it get hard? And I go through and I'm like, ooh, November's tough.
Yeah.
December's tough. January's tough. Wait, maybe the NBA's just tough. They're all good teams. I think this is probably the 23rd best team in the NBA this year is probably better than any 23rd best team I've seen in the last 20 years.
That is a take right there. Put it on the social media post. Put it on a quote.
Let me find out.
Man.
Hold on, just for
The 23rd team
for
this
fun,
year.
I'm just gonna look at it here and see. It is the Clippers. The Clippers, the Los
Right
Angeles
now.
Clippers, the 23rd best.
That team's
team.
pretty good.
They're pretty good. All right,
everybody's just got something this year.
Number 2. This one could have easily been number 1. Maybe it should have been number 1, but number 2. I am in love with this new generation of talent. The new players coming into the NBA, whether they're rookies, you know, like the brand new players onto the scene. We got Scotty Barnes doing some interesting stuff. You got Giddey, who's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
You got Duarte, who I like his style. You got those guys, but then even the new generation, I put Ja Morant in that group. You know, those types of players, your Lukas, whatever. There's so many players that I like that are 24, 25 and under that they're all starting to shine and really become great players, not just good players, but great players. And I love it.
They just come in so smart too. Like you watch Evan Mobley and you're like,
Mobley,
that dude just can defend already. You're like, oh my gosh, wow.
So,
like watch this guy defend.
So here's what's interesting about this is the league started to change around 2010, 11, 12, and really in earnest in 2015 with the Warriors. What you're getting now is a generation of players who hit their most important developmental years, you know, that's 17, 18, 19, 20, after that point, after 2015. So you have this new wave of players that were sort of molded into this style of basketball, not converted to it, but molded in it. And I think that's part of why we're seeing such great players. The game, in my opinion, has gotten a lot more dynamic where you have to be more well-rounded. And that's why you see a guy like Mobley who's able to contest, 100 shots through 4 games or something like that.
Blocks jump shots like every game.
Yeah, he's just all over the place. And that's a thing that I think if he was coming up in 2006-07, maybe doesn't venture outside the paint very much, but he's a guy that watched the NBA evolve and grew up practicing that kind of stuff. And I think it's really cool to see. I love this new generation.
Yeah, there's lots of guys to love. There's guys like buried on teams too, like Cam Thomas on the Nets. You're like, he's not getting any play this year, and he's just a guy that microwave scorer.
If you were to tell me like my 50 favorite players to watch, I would guess about half of them are 24 or under.
Wow,
which is kind of crazy, you know. Like there's a lot of young players I really enjoy watching.
Yeah, and some of them have been like aged out too, where you're like can't play those guys anymore because either they're big guys that don't shoot threes, or they haven't developed their game in a certain way. It's just they're kind of getting pushed out too.
Number 1, are you ready for it?
Oh, I'm ready.
You already know what it is. The new rules. They're actually being implemented, Nick. We didn't know. We had this debate a month ago. I think you were a skeptic. You said, I don't know. They'll do this for a week or two. And look, it's only
been 10 days.
It's only been 10 days, so we might still be right. But it has been high profile, the amount of plays, those jumping sideways, those stop on a full run, stick your butt out and try to fall over. These plays, what I love about them is refs, there have been situations where refs have called offensive fouls on these, but mostly refs just kind of look at the dudes and are like, that's out. And it's almost like shameful when James Harden grabs somebody's arm and flails, and then a ref just looks at him and he's like, what? And it's so refreshing. Here's the thing. I think this is why I think it's going to stick. The NBA, they're slow to make rule changes because rule changes are so big and you don't know the feedback. I think that these rule changes have been so universally praised in this opening week that the rules committee has to be sitting back and going, sweet, what else can we do? Get rid of the Euro foul? Yeah. Should we get rid of that? Should we get rid of fouling when you're up 3 with final seconds? Should we get rid of things that make the game more boring and sort of game the system? So the new rule changes have made this season significantly better. And what's funny, scoring is down quite a bit. It's down for like over the last 5 years, scoring has been so inflated. Scoring is down and everybody's happier. All fans are happier. I love it.
Yeah. There was a play in the Mavs Spurs game where Bryn Forbes goes up for a 3. Brunson does that closeout where he's perpendicular from the basket from him and runs towards him from the side and just like runs in front of him. And Bryn Forbes kicks his leg out and he falls down and he's like, oh, and he looks over at the ref, and the ref just looks at him and like shrugs. And Bryn Forbes made the three, and they just like
shouldn't have
kept
stuck
playing.
your leg out. Yeah, like
He just kept playing, and I was like, oh, thank you. It probably should have been called an offensive foul because he kicked Brunson in the stomach.
Part of me likes them just not calling anything.
Me too, yeah.
The players are so indignant about it. It's pretty funny. But like I said, most players, I think, will begin to adjust, and I think most players actually already have begun to adjust.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably other things going on with James Harden right now. Like, he doesn't look healthy. But I do think there's also a little part of this where it's like he, of all people, gamed that system the most. And now he's the one that I have the most examples of trying to do this stuff and not getting it. Like, most guys have tried it once or twice. And they're like, oh, okay, I guess they're not calling it. James Harden's done it like 30 times. And he's like, what? not this
Guys,
time?
this is my thing. I've been doing this for like 10 years now.
Best scorer ever or something. Whatever.
I think Nate Duncan did like a 15-tweet thread of a bunch of examples of Harden trying to do stuff like this.
I love it.
People are gonna do it all season.
Luka love it too. Did you see Kyle Kuzma was tweeting about it? Like, players have been talking about how smart this was for the league. This is why I think the rules committee could look at some of these other things like the Euro foul and say, hey, the Euro foul right now is smart. It makes sense to stop a fast break. Yeah. But who that watches a basketball is like, ooh, I hope there's no fast breaks tonight.
I hope somebody doesn't dunk at the end of this transition play.
Yeah. And it's same with fouling up three. I put this out on Twitter the other day, and it was very split. Some people are like, hell yeah, Adam. Some people were like, it's dumb. But who at the end of game, if you're watching a game that you have no rooting interest for, who wants to watch a team just foul back and forth at the final 30 seconds? If you're down 3, you want to see a team have an opportunity to tie it because that's what you want to see. Greatness, some great play, great shot making. So get rid of any rule that slows the game down in an artificial way and takes away from the drama and excitement and talent that should be the showcase of basketball.
Oh, I'm so in. The NBA is in a good place. Parity, there's all kinds of stuff happening. That was Adam Mars' 5 favorite things. That was Locked On NBA. Guys, go listen to Locked On Nuggets. Great stuff all the time about your Denver Nuggets. Nikola Jokic. Go listen to Locked On Mavs. Great stuff about Luka every single day. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On NBA. Boom.